Guys, welcome back to our study of the Cold War and Kennedy. Today's lesson is going to be over the crisis over Berlin and basically the construction of the Berlin Wall. And this will be our last unit of our study of the Cold War. So prior to the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Kennedy forces Khrushchev to back down, both men disagreed on action in Berlin in 1961. And we're going back now to Germany, where this whole Cold War thing began, it seems. 11 years had passed since the Berlin Airlift, and since that time, since the people of Berlin had been given assistance, since that time, 20% of the population of East Berlin had fled into West Berlin to escape communism. Obviously, communism is not all that it's cracked up to be. Why else would 20% of your population flee the country? As a result of that movement, the economy of East Berlin takes a huge hit. And so Khrushchev has to do something to prevent the loss of all of that essential manpower. Khrushchev threatens to close all access roads to West Berlin, like we saw Stalin do, and that's what prompted the Berlin Airlift. Nothing is done, though, due to America's nuclear superiority. Khrushchev does not act upon that. And access to West Berlin from West Germany stays open. However, here we are. Well, before we go into the however, let me show you a map just to refresh your memory. West Germany, controlled by West Germans now, with the support of the United States and England. East Germany, run by Soviet Union, supposedly. It's a satellite nation, but basically a Soviet-controlled state. And then within the city of Berlin, we have West Berlin, East Berlin, West Berlin being under the control of the UN, West Germany, United States, England, whoever you want to put in there, a city that is surrounded by Soviet influence. And so this is what Khrushchev is threatening. He's threatened to close down all access points into West Berlin, and he can because it's in Soviet-controlled East Germany. Now, much to the surprise, and here's the however, much to the surprise and shock of the world, Khrushchev orders a construction of a wall built entirely around West Berlin, and that is what we would call today the Berlin Wall. It's around the entire city limits of West Berlin. Overnight, Khrushchev has the Soviet army deliver concrete and posts and rebar and fences, everything they need to start building this wall. And it goes up very, very quickly. And it does cut off any outside movement into West Berlin, but Khrushchev is going to say that it's designed to prevent people from leaving East Berlin going into West Berlin. That's his reasoning. Here's a pretty good diagram of what the wall looks like. So West Berlin business, East Berlin businesses, housing, whatever you want to call it. And here's the section that is patrolled by Soviet troops. And here's the Berlin Wall itself. So it ends the issue, it ends the crisis for Khrushchev. No more people leaving East Berlin rather. But it only heightens the tension between the two countries even further, making Cold War tensions rise even further. 1963, Kennedy announces to the United States that a hotline had been established between the White House and Kremlin. Given the fact that the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were on a brink of war. Literally, the command had been given to sink a cargo ship heading to Cuba in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were, minutes away, seconds away from a nuclear war. And now the tension between between Soviet Union and the United States with the building of the Berlin Wall. Kennedy announces that a hotline had been established between the White House and the Kremlin. Now, it's not a phone line, as I grew up being taught and believed that this was a phone, a red phone, that you pick it up and you push. There's only one button on it, and it automatically dials the leader of the Soviet Union. That's not what it is. In fact, it is a dedicated line, which is why it's called a hotline, and it is direct access to the Soviet leader, or on the Soviet side to the U.S. Leader or the Pentagon. But it's not a phone line. In fact, at first it was a teletype, basically a Morse code type instrument, and then as technology progressed, it became a fax machine, and then today messages between the two countries are exchanged by email. It is a dedicated line, and that's why it's called a hotline, so as to avoid any unknowns, I guess, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, but not a red phone like I would be led to believe when I was in high school. Folks, that's it. Talk to you later. Bye.